and they are in listen only.
Hello, Assalamu alaikum, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whichever applies in your region. This is going to be a regional webinar, and we have attendees from around 16 countries in the world. So this webinar will be broadcasted in Sri Lanka, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, Bangladesh, UAE, Qatar, United States, Hungary, Tanzania, New Zealand, Oman, Australia, Turkey, Mauritania, Bahrain, and Norway. And we have, I'm very glad to share with you, we have participants from all these countries who are going to attend this webinar. My name is Haroon Ahmed Jan, and I am the Regional Head of Member Affairs for Manasa region. I think for quite some time, the need for running a webinar purely around CPD, why does it exist, is this a requirement, how should one do it, what are the requirements around doing CPD, what are the various ways of doing CPD, how to report it, and what happens if you don't report it, etc. I mean, there was a lot of ambiguity around this particular subject. So this particular session has been organized and planned to take you through all the requirements, first of all, of CPD. What is the CPD policy like? What was its origin? What is ACCA's CPD policy? How are you required to achieve it? What resources does ACCA provide to achieve your CPD? Then going on, how to report it and how important it is to report it. And if your name is picked up in a CPD audit, how to deal with a CPD audit. And then all along we will have loads of questions from your side, I'm sure. However, I also have questions to ask of you. So we have poll questions available that from time to time I'll be sharing with you. Now, let's make a beginning. Don't you think that CPD helps you develop your career and it helps you as you go along gaining more experience in your professional life? It equips you to take on bigger and better roles in whichever organization you're working in. Or for example, if there are developments in the profession, if there are developments taking place in the world of business, don't you think it is very, very important in order to stay relevant that you continue to learn? Now, let me first of all take you to the source or the origin of continuing professional development. Back in 2005, ACCA, or not just ACCA, IFAC decided that there has to be a policy around professional development in place around the world for all its member professional bodies. And hence, 2005, a standard was developed or created and implemented through which CPD was imposed. In 2012, a review of the CPD policy was conducted, and effective 1st of January 2014, the CPD policy of IFAC, or the CPD guidelines of IFAC, were reviewed and they were made effective. Now let's first of all see why and what is CPD all about. By the definition of the standard IES 7, which is International Education Standard 7, CPD the standard prescribes the continuing professional development is required to develop and maintain, importantly, develop and then maintain professional competence. It applies to all the IFAC member bodies, and all the IFAC member bodies are then required to report, make public reports on compliance of its members with respect to CPD. So you can go to the ACCA website and check ACCA's regulatory report for 2016, and you will find out that ACCA would have disclosed what efforts were made by ACCA to offer its members an opportunity to learn, to gain CPD. How many or what percentage of our members gained CPDs and how many did not? What were the different actions ACCA took? So all these are made public. Now, why do you think the CPD policy exists? The answer is very simple yet very important. Accountants, professional accountants, have a responsibility towards public interest. People, let's suppose investors or business owners, take business decisions on the basis of advice given by professional accountants. Now, just imagine if the advice given by a professional accountant is not accurate, is not based on the current business needs, it's not based on the current compliance or regulations need. It is very simply can be a very, very dangerous situation, which means the basis on which a business takes its decision, an investor makes a decision, is solely dependent upon the advice given by professional accountants, and therefore it is essential that professional accountants, they are fully updated with the needs of the business, the modern developments in the business taking place, the needs of compliance, etc., and therefore are able to give sound advice to the businesses, and that's why the CPD requirement exists. I will just like to interrupt this here. Please remember, all those members who are attending this session for the first time, a webinar session for the first time, you can type in your questions in the questions dialog box. So if you see the GoToWebinar screen, there's a questions dialog box available to you. You can type in your questions there. We will be taking frequent question and answer breaks, and we will try to answer all your questions, no matter what, all your questions. As long as they are related to CPD, we will try to answer all your questions. All right, moving on. Now, let's talk a bit about ACCA's CPD policy. So how does ACCA come about with its CPD policy? Is the policy subject to changes? Is the policy subject to modernization, etc.? So yes, first of all, ACCA goes around, conducts CPD surveys, and the participants or the people who are responsible for giving feedback, and would include ACCA members, definitely, and number two, employers. So what are the different needs of employers, as we're calling them business needs? What are they? What do employers need from the professional accountants working from them? And what are the wants from our members? So based on this, a CPD policy was concluded or was decided upon by ACCA. Number two, I've told you IFAC has the International Education Standard 7 in place. ACCA is a member body of IFAC, has to comply by the requirements, and therefore all the requirements set forth by IFAC are met by the ACCA CPD policy. And number three, and equally important, is the ACCA's perspective is that the members of this professional accounting body, members of ACCA, must continue to grow. They should not be stagnant in their roles. They need to, and in order to grow, they need to learn more. They need to learn, develop more skills, etc. And that forms the basis of ACCA's CPD policy. Now, let's talk about mainly the 4 different routes available for members to complete their CPD. There are 4 different routes available. The first one is the unit route. Now, very simply speaking, I would say about 95% of the members globally follow the unit route for completing their CPD requirement. what is this unit root, what are the requirements. We'll look at it in a bit, but let's first of all look at the other routes available. So number 2 is the unit route, but for part-time or semi-retired members. So of course, it's slightly different requirements for such category. Number 3 is the approved employer route, and this requires a bit of explanation because it's a little different. I mean, I've come across members who perceive it differently, but the requirement is actually a little different. So we talk about this. And the 4th one is the IFEC body route. Now, 4 types or 4 routes to completing your CPD requirement. Let's talk a bit about the first one. So the first route to CPD is the unit route. And if you look at the explanation, it says 40 CPD units to be earned annually. 21 of these 40 units should be verifiable, and we'll see what verifiable CPD units are, and 19 of them could be non-verifiable. So we'll look at some more details about what are units, 40, 21, 19. If I've got more, what happens? If I've got less than that, what happens? So we'll look at all those situations. Now, so that was the unit route, and I said to you that 95% of the members around the world, we have 1,98,000 members of ACCA around the world. 95% of them would be following the unit route. The second is the unit route for part-time or semi-retired individuals. So automatically, when you're part-time, you have limited responsibilities, you have limited resources, etc., or you're part-time or semi-retired because of certain circumstances, and therefore ACCA softens the requirement around professional development from its members. So in that case, only 19 non-verifiable CPD units are required from semi-retired or part-time members working in part-time. Moving on, the approved employer route, and it is essential for you to understand that ACCA approved employer program has multiple streams. So the first one would be approved employer for trainee development, which means the employer or that organization will recruit ACCA trainees, will develop them for 36 months, and of course all the members would have gone through that process. They will develop those trainees for 36 months, and in the end they will pass them out as ACCA members. So that stream is called ACCA Trainee Development Stream. Number 2 is ACCA Practicing Certificate Stream, which in Minasa region is not very common at the moment. However, we are trying to develop that. We want ACCA members, wherever the regulations allow, we want them to set up ACCA practicing firms, and ACCA's policies or requirements around practicing firms are being made easy, etc. And therefore, that's the second category of the approved employer group. The third category is approved employer for professional development. Now, please remember, only those approved employers who have been given the ACCA approved employer status for professional development, only the members working in those organizations would fall under this category. So for example, if I have to give you an example, Standard Chartered Bank across the world is a global approved employer for professional development. So if there's an ACCA member working at Standard Chartered Bank anywhere in the world, the requirement for CPD for that member is different. And the requirement is not that they have to report 40 units, 21 verifiable, 19 non-verifiable. They're not required to do that. They're only required to submit a statement or a letter through which it can be proven that they are working for example, Standard Chartered Bank. So an employment certificate, an experience letter, you're currently employed, for example, for Standard Chartered Bank, that will suffice. So behind this, of course, there's a complete process. And that process is that ACCA, the staff of that particular country, would go to that employer, the employer that is desirous of becoming approved employer for professional development. They will look at the plans, the annual plans of that organization. They look at their budgets and spending of that organization on professional development. They will see how many members work there. They will see, what kind of professional development opportunities are available to its members over there. And if and when ACCA is satisfied that the organization is going to spend sufficient amount of money, effort, on its members so as to meet ACCA's Cpd requirement, only then ACCA offers the professional development approved employer status to that organization. And after that, any ACCA member working in such an organization is privileged to only provide an evidence of employment with that organization. All right, moving on. And the last one is the IFAC route. Now, as you might already know, that IFAC has many member bodies. So, if let's suppose an ACCA member who is a member of another professional accountancy body, and that accountancy body is also a member of IFAC, then since the underlying requirement of IFAC would exist, therefore ACCA would say you can go on and meet the requirements of the other professional accounting body, and ACCA would then only need a declaration from the member that yes, I have completed my Cpd requirement, and they will not be required to follow the unit route of ACCA. Now there can be certain circumstances, there can be certain possibilities. We'll explore those possibilities in the slides to come. Or what would those possibilities be, particularly talking about the IFAC body route. Okay, so on this screen, we'll see 4 different scenarios. Please remember, we are trying to explore the IFAC body route. So 4 different scenarios. If there's an individual who's only a member of ACCA, then of course it's very simple. They have to achieve or meet the requirements set forth by ACCA for professional development. If an ACCA member is a member of, let's suppose, the local accounting body as well as ACCA, then there are 2 scenarios. One is that member may follow ACCA's Cpd policy, and the other possibility is that the member may follow the local accounting bodies, for example, Cpd policy. So in both scenarios, there's a little bit of a difference. In case the member is using ACCA's Cpd route or ACCA's Cpd policy, then that member is required to report the achievement of Cpd as per ACCA's requirements and standards. So there has to be evidence, verifiable, non-verifiable, 20, 19 units, reporting, evidence, all of that, and then finally, end of the year, a declaration of your Cpd, and that completes ACCA's Cpd requirement. However, for the other accounting body, just a declaration to that accounting body that you or that particular member has met ACCA's Cpd requirement should be sufficient. The other scenario in which the person is following, let's suppose, the Cpd policy of the local accounting body, in that case, they will be required to meet all the standards, the entire Cpd policy of the local accounting body, submit a declaration there, submit evidences, etc. The unit requirement has been set forth by IFAC, so most probably it will be the same for that other accounting body as well. And once the requirements of that accounting body have been met, then the member can come back to the ACCA's Cpd policy and can only submit a Cpd declaration. We will see how to submit Cpd declarations, how to submit them in this webinar. So they're only required to submit ACCA a declaration that they have met the Cpd requirement through another IFAC member body. I think that explains the situation, quite evidently. We can move on And let's now see what is verifiable CPD and what is non-verifiable CPD. How do you find out if the CPD you're trying to achieve or you have achieved can be considered verifiable or non-verifiable? Now, it is actually a myth that I can only gain CPD if I attend courses, if I attend training programs. There are a number of ways through which CPD can be gained. However, 3 basic questions should be kept in mind. The first and the foremost, and you should be able to see that on the screen as well under the definition of verifiable CPD, the first and the foremost is relevance. Is this activity, learning activity, relevant to the work I do? If let's suppose you're doing taxation work or learning around taxation would be relevant CPD. If you are, let's suppose, working as a sales analyst, of course your CPD requirements would vary. If you're working as an ERP specialist, your CPD requirements would be different from that of a member who's, let's say, practicing tax. So relevance is the most important. Whenever ACCS says this CPD activity carries 8 units of CPD, that means a member who finds this activity extremely relevant to the work can claim maximum number of CPD units. A person who's partially relevant, yeah. So, for example, if somebody is working as an ERP specialist, taxation would not be fully relevant, right? So, of course, some knowledge of taxation would be relevant. So, therefore, it is left upon members' discretion to calculate what percentage of that content was relevant to the work this member does. So, if it's, let's suppose, 50%, the member should automatically claim, instead of 8 CPD units, 4 CPD units. I hope that concept is clear. When we take the question answer break, we will see if you have any questions around that. But the first requirement for ascertaining that your CPD activity was verifiable would be, number 1, relevance. Number 2, you will have to, if you can explain how you will apply this learning in your workplace, I mean, in other words, trying to prove relevance of that activity, right? That will also be required if you're claiming verifiable CPD. And number 3, is there an evidence of you having attended that learning activity or that learning opportunity, availed that learning opportunity? If an evidence exists, that means that the CPD can be considered verifiable CPD activity. And all the CPD units gained through this particular activity, you could claim under the verifiable CPD requirement. Right? Non-verifiable is general learning, not related to a specific outcome. So if, for example, you open the newspaper, you read the business section, and you get to know about the economy of your country, you get to know about the business environment, you get to know about, let's say, profitability of companies in a particular sector, etc. So that can be considered non-verifiable CPD activity. Now, how are we doing on questions? Can we take question answer break or should we continue? How many questions do we have?
We should take a question answer break.
How many questions do we have?
There are a couple of questions.
If there are only a couple of questions, we could wait for another 20 minutes and then take a break. If that would work. 15 questions?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Let's take a question answer break. We'll try to cap this question answer break for about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Steph, so not beyond 10 minutes. Let's take the first few questions.
Yeah, sure.
I'll try to explain, give short answers, 10 minutes, and then we move on. However, I can vouch, I can guarantee, I will not leave this webinar unless all the questions have been answered. So rest assured, if you've asked a question, you will get a response. All you need to do is stay alert.
Mohammed Riaz is asking, dear sir, I am serving to compile the accounts of Punjab government and federal government through SAP software. Whether this government is approved employer? and I may be waived off to submit CPD.
You're not waived, number one, you're not waived off to submit your CPD. If you are working, let me go back to that slide. This one. CPD is not waived for any member whosoever. CPD requirement is not waived for any member whosoever unless there is a situation in which the member is not working, is unemployed for whatever reason, for health reasons, for switching jobs, etc., etc. And the requirement says that if a member stays out of job for more than a month in a year, in that case, the member can apply for a waiver. It is not to be understood automatically that since I'm not working, waived. Right? So first part of your question answered, CPD requirement is not waived. You were talking about approved employer. Even in case of approved employer, you have to give an evidence of your being employed with that organization. The CPD requirement stays in place. You are still required to submit your annual CPD declaration. Regarding a question, Punjab government, which department was it?
Accounts, compile accounts of Punjab government and.
Okay, so whichever public sector organization you're talking about, they're not CPD approved employer at the moment. There are very few CPD approved employers in the region, in the world. Very few organizations. The list can be, can be sought from customer services, and through that you can find out whether your organization is approved for CPD by ACCA. Yes, next question, please.
Zahid Mahmood Gill is asking, I became ACCA member on 26 May 2017. When is my first CPD due, and what would be the deadline to submit my CPD declaration?
CPD requirement is due exactly 1 year after you become a member, and automatically your account would start reflecting the requirement for CPD, and you will be required to submit your CPD declaration the subsequent year.
Saida Zubia Batul is asking, my CPD date starts from 1st January 2018 and end date is January 2019. So if I submit CPDs in this financial year 2017, so are these carry forwarded to the next year CPD?
We will look at that. We will look at that. There are a certain number of hours that you can carry forward. We will look at that. How many of those?
Again, Zahid Mahmood Gill is asking, what is the meaning of part-time or semi-retired terms used for CPD rules?
Yes, if you're not employed in a full-time role, if it's a part-time role, I'm not saying a contract. If it's a part-time assignment, in that case, your CPD requirements are relaxed to. They're not waived. They're relaxed to 19 non-verifiable units.
Umesh Bhatt is asking, what about those who are currently unemployed?
Like I said, if you are unemployed for more than a month in the year, you can apply for a waiver from CPD. Female members, if they're on family way, if they're not working, if they're taking care of the baby at home, etc., they can apply for waiver from CPD if they're not employed.
Mohammad Asghar is asking, when the year starts, is it from the January or July? Maybe he's asking about the CPD.
ACCA's year is Jan to December. And the CPD declaration falls due on the 1st of January every year. 1st of January, you must make a CPD declaration. You're given certain time. If you don't declare that you've completed your CPD requirement for that year, you will face consequences. We'll see what consequences.
Maqsoodul Amin is asking, do HSBC employees get the same CPD facility like Standard Chartered Bank?
You can, like I said, you can have a list of CPD approved employers or professional development approved employers from ACCA. You can look at the organizations in that list and see if HSBC is a part of that.
Waleed Riza Mamnoon is asking, what are the additional requirements to convert organization from trainee development stream to professional stream?
Well, like I said, there are certain requirements. ACCA has to see the company's policy around investing in their human resource. We have to see evidences of that having taken place. We have to see budget allocation. So once all these requirements are met, ACCA would then give that organization a permission to, approve that organization professional development, and the members the permission to not follow the unit route and follow the ACCA approved employer professional development route.
Uswar is asking if we have more than 40 CPD units in 1 year, can these
we'll look at how to roll over, how many to roll over, and and stuff like that in the slides to come.
Mohammed Mudassar Inayat Aman is asking, please tell me whether PIPFA CPD can be equivalent to ACC CPD.
If PIPFA is a member of IFAC, yes. If PIPFA is not a member of IFAC, no.
Bilal Ahmed is asking for this session, 2 CPD units are available. How is this a verifiable CPD, or such type of CPDs are only non-verifiable?
No, of course. Even this session, it's verifiable. You will receive certificates. There are many other ways through which you can prove that the CPD took place and you were part of it, and we will discuss those going forward.
That's it.
That's it?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's now move on, and I have a very interesting slide to share with you, and it is this slide. This is the percentage of members completing CPD, and we have Pakistan, UAE, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and global percentages available. Now, interestingly, the percentage of members submitting CPDs, the average in the last 5 years or 4 years is around 86.4% in Pakistan, 91.3% in UAE, 88% in Sri Lanka, 91.1% in Bangladesh, but the global average is about 95.7%, which means on an average 95.7% members globally submit their CPD returns annually. However, if you look at these 4 countries, all of them are below the global average. Now, one of the purposes of doing this session was to make our members aware of the CPD requirements, how simple they are, how flexible they are, and therefore tell them that they must, as a requirement, they must need to comply with this requirement. Most of the reasons why members in these countries do not submit CPD returns, as per my knowledge of the market, most of the members, when they're recently inducted into membership, they're unaware of the CPD requirement. They're not fully aware. However, some programs have been initiated in each market so as to inform members about the CPD requirements. Exactly. They're not aware of the flexibility of the CPD policy. Most of the members think that CPD, like I said, can only be gained through attending trainings, which could be costly, which could be time consuming, which could take time away from you, from work. So it's not like that. ACC's CPD policy is very, very flexible, and in the slides to come, I will demonstrate that to you. Number 3, they're not fully aware of the actual requirements, like I said. And number 4, they're not aware of the repercussions. So for example, if I don't meet my CPD requirements for this particular year, what's going to happen to me, right? So I will ask these questions in a few slides, through a few polls. I am going to ask these questions from you as well. But please bear in mind, submitting CPD declaration every year and submitting your CPD returns are essential, as laid down by IFAC, as laid down by ACCA. It is essential. Let's move on. All right. Here, I think I would like to clarify certain myths. And we call them myths because they're not real. because they've been spread through hearsay, because members would tend to feel, yes, this could be the case, etc. So let's have a look at these. And these myths have been consolidated, these been compiled through our experience of the questions members raise from time to time to our customer services. So one member said, see, I am doing my MBA after ACCA. I am not employed. I am doing my MBA, right? Is MBA Cpd? I'm not working in a full-time capacity. Is my MBA a source of Cpd for me? So the answer is yes. And your MBA is a verifiable source of Cpd. Of course, if it's an MBA program, the number of Cpd units you could gain would be far more than 40. So therefore, and please be very clear on this, a maximum of 21 units, 21 verifiable units can be carried forward to the subsequent year. So if, let's suppose, in a given year, I was able to earn about 100 Cpd units, 100, okay? 40 out of those I will be able to consume in the current year, and only 21 I will be able to carry forward to the next year and neutralize the requirement for verifiable Cpd for the next year. You cannot carry Cpd units any further. So you cannot say to the second year, to the third year, no, you cannot say that. Similarly, the Cpd units gained at a time when Cpd was not a requirement for you. For example, this question asked by a lady, a member, whose Cpd requirement starts from the 1st of January 2018. Cpd activities completed in this time of the year is not to be reported in the next year. So only to be reported when the Cpd activity actually starts. Okay, more myths. I can't attend expensive Cpd courses. I don't have the time to go out and spend days and months to attend courses. So the answer is Cpd policy of ACCA is not around attending expensive time-taking courses. There are multiple ways, and we will explore which ways are available to you for completing your Cpd. Another situation, a member says, I am not working in an accountancy role anymore. However, I am an active ACCA member. Cpd requirement is, I believe, only about if you are working in accounts and finance related role. So that's not the case. Like I said to you, if you are working as an ERP specialist, that is not much related to accounting and finance, you are required to gain Cpd from within the domain of work that you are doing. So for example, you need to extend your skills around ERP implementation, right? So whenever you're looking for opportunities for Cpd, don't just go haywire. Don't just say, all right, this Cpd program, this webinar, this article. I mean, look for relevant ones, right? And I'll tell you ways through which you can actually plan your Cpd also. Moving on, and that is another situation where someone says, this Cpd activity does not offer a Cpd certificate. So I don't know whether I can report it as verifiable Cpd or not. So there are multiple ways through which you can report, or you can submit evidence of a Cpd, verifiable Cpd activity. And third-party verification letter is one such possibility through which you can report it. Or otherwise, meeting minutes if you've attended a meeting, etc., so on and so forth. Somebody says, I am the chief executive of my organization. I don't have time for Cpd, right? So the simple answer to that is ACCA's policy around Cpd is not around attending courses. If, and that's very important, if you're able to extend your learning while doing your day-to-day job, that can also be considered verifiable Cpd. And I will give you examples of that going forward. All right, some situations where which be relevant. I attended an event, but I didn't learn much. Is that CPD? No. CPD is about learning. If you haven't learned, you haven't done CPD. As simple as that. All right. Let's suppose I am a member and I am delivering this webinar for benefit of other members. The time that I've spent preparing for this webinar, doing research, etc., is considered CPD for me. So those members who are conducting webinars, conducting trainings within their organization, within their accounting body, outside of their accounting body, etc. If, let's suppose, a member gets invited to speak at a big conference, right, and their evidence is available, so of course the time that that member spends in preparing for that role as a speaker, for that role as a webinar trainer, that could be counted towards CPD. I was, another situation, I was planning to attend a CPD event in December. It was to be held on 25th of December, but something happened around 25th and the event got cancelled. So ACCA's answer to that is you need to plan your CPDs. Don't sort of gather all your CPD activities in a particular month at the end of the year. Spread them throughout the year. So these are some common myths that we've tried to answer. I'm sure you will have some questions like these. So in the next question answer break, we will take more questions. Now, so far we have only been talking about units and units of CPD. So let's find out how do these units translate into hours. Very simple. 1 unit is equals to 1 hour. Right? To gain a CPD unit, you have to spend an hour in learning. Okay. So as the screen says, 21 hours of verifiable CPD and 19 hours of non-verifiable CPD. That would mean that's our requirement for verifiable and non-verifiable CPDs. Now, let's look at how to plan your CPD. And planning is very, very important. Right? ACCA does not recommend that you just, doing your routine job whenever you come across, an ACCA announcement for a webinar, you just randomly go and attend certain webinars, and that's how you try to meet your CPD requirement. It has to be more organized and more planned than that. You need to know, or somebody needs to tell you, what are your development requirements. So like I said, somebody has to define that relevance. You could do it yourself or you could seek help. ACCA does provide help to its members to plan their CPD for the entire year in advance. Please remember, just randomly doing CPDs and reporting them towards the end just in order to meet the requirement that the accounting body is set forth, I don't think is best practice. Best practice would be, beginning of the year, you try to ascertain, this is what I am doing today, this is what I want to achieve by the end of the year. Maybe your role in the organization where you're working is changing, you've been given a promotion, you've been asked to look into some other work, right? So automatically your needs would vary, right? So if you're, let's suppose, being promoted in the year, and if you are, congratulations in advance. If you're being promoted, you need to be ready for the new role. If, let's suppose, this promotion will make you a leader in your organization, you will be leading a team of people, you need to learn leadership skills. You need to know how to motivate your team. You need to know how to set targets for your team. And therefore, your CPD activity will have to be relevant to all those activities. Now, ACCA has provided this resource to all of you, known as the Professional Development metrics. Please type in your questions box. How many of you have explored the professional development metrics? Answers? Nope. No, no. All right. Not explored, no, no. Once checked but did not understand. Ali, noted. Today I'll demonstrate that to you. Ahmad, Umar, Fahad, think few years ago you did explore. But generally, I think about 20, 25 people have replied and they're saying they haven't explored it. This is an excellent tool available to you to plan your CPD, then to review your CPD, and lots of other stuff. So let's see how to do that. Let's first of all see what professional development matrix does. And on this slide, you will be able to see what this little genie can do for you. First of all, it says you can identify your CPD achievements to date. So you can continue to record your CPD achievements through the PDM, Professional Development Matrix. Then clarify what's involved in your role and the knowledge, skills, and expertise that make you effective. So you need to clarify that. Consider, and what I mean by clarifying is you need to provide all that information about your role, etc., to the PDM, and it will advise opportunities to you. Then consider what may change in your role and help to prioritize the learning you need to continue to be effective. This is exactly what we were talking about a little while ago. What is changing? Anticipate the next year, the next few months, the next 2 years in your professional career. Try to be ready for that. Use this CPD to be effective in your role, right? Not just to tick a box. Discover your preferred learning style. I find it very, for example, I find it very, very difficult to go to a venue, a big conference, sit there, attend the conference, learn something, not learn something, network only. You know, my learning style, let's suppose, is I am better off reading. I am better off staying in my office attending a webinar. I am better off doing meetings in office through which I, improve my learning at work, right? So as long as you can define your preferred learning style, PDM will help you identify opportunities through which you can complete your CPD requirement. Then produce a personal development plan. People, this is essential. All those members who just said that they haven't explored the professional development matrix means that they haven't planned their CPD yet. Please, please, this is essential for your growth. In your personal development plan, you need to show or represent any skills and knowledge you need to develop or maintain. And what are the most effective ways of acquiring those skills and knowledge, and time scale to work to. So how much time do you have? What are your preferred ways of gaining CPD? And so on and so forth. You have to plan all that. Assess your learning needs on a regular basis and set reminders to review these periodically. So this is your personal assistant in a way. PDM is in a way your personal assistant trying to help you to grow and develop in your professional life. Now let's go and have a look at it very, very quickly. I will not be spending too much time, but I have permission from an ACCA member who's working with us here. I'm going to use his login to demonstrate to you what do you need to do to understand or make PDM, to put it to work. So let's very quickly see. I have gone to the ACCA Global page, and from there I've clicked My ACCA. By the way, all of you can make use of this time. You will have computers available, you will have internet access available, so you can do all this alongside. While we are doing this, you can also quickly go and have try this out. Okay, if you've gotten to this stage, the first notice that comes up, again, is very important. It says, please update your ACCA details. If your details are out of date, your cell number isn't updated, your email address is not updated, your address is not updated, that means you will not be getting relevant information, or you will not be getting any information from ACCA at all. You need to have updated, we need to have updated contact details of all our members to be able to help them, to be able to service them, to be able to support them in their professional endeavors. So in this case, I just skip this, but otherwise, if you ever get a chance, if there's some details that you need to change, please by all means make use of this and update your contact details and information. Okay. This screen. Welcome, Mr. Faisal Azim. I hope Faisal is listening to this. Skip the information about his address and all. Straight away scroll down to the second section, which says managing your Cpd. And if you look at this section, there's an option available to you. It says professional development matrix. But before that, it says your Cpd start date is such and such, and your closing date is such and such. So please note all these. I mean, new members, if the Cpd starts on the 1st of January 2018, that means you become a member during 2017, the Cpd requirement kicks off from the next year. And that gives you time to be prepared for it. So let's click Professional Development Matrix. Running out of time, let's quickly do it. First few slides are an overview of what PDM can do for you. Okay, so you can very quickly read these and continue moving on, but eventually you'll have to fill up complete step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and in the end, record any evidences if you have. So let's quickly do this. This PDM tool has been specifically designed for ACCA members and finance professionals. The PDM will help you focus on your role and how you remain an effective professional. It will help ensure your Cpd is relevant to your needs now and in the future. It will highlight the knowledge and skills demanded by your role. For approved Cpd employers, please check information for special instructions. So for approved employers, there's a little different process available. Next, again, overview. It says why use this, and we have just explored these, the slide that I shared with you. Moving on. How does PDM work? And let's read this carefully. It says PDM has 6 steps. You can follow each step sequentially or start at any particular step. You may skip steps as well, or use some or all of the steps in order to suit your needs. However, I suggest you complete all. You can navigate steps using the top toolbar. So this one, the top toolbar. You can navigate different steps. Navigate inside steps, access, help, print, or log out using the side toolbar, this one. You can save your records, amend or print them every time you log in in the records your previously saved will automatically appear. So if you've already put in some information and you saved it, next time when you open it up, the previously saved changes will automatically appear. The PDM includes a number of tools and techniques that will help identify and measure your skills. It asks you certain questions and it's going to talk about it. Knowledge, experience and expertise. Techniques using prompting challenge questions, which are open-ended, and focus questions that are more structured, quantifiable, or include questionnaire-style evaluations. I mean, through this, it tries to assess your role profile. It tries to, through that, assess your professional development needs also. Includes help functions that allow you to build a picture of what you do, what you need to know, and what you need to think about to be effective in your role. So such an important tool. Moving on. So this is a brief description of the 6 steps. First step, it'll ask you about your achievements. Second step, so what have you already done? For example, what kind of learning have you already done, etc. Second step, your present role. Okay, so through process of role profiling, it will try to ascertain what exactly is your role. It will ask you about the type of organization you're working for, the sector, etc. Your development needs, your learning style, your personal development plan, evaluating benefits, and finally, an evidence record. How to record the evidence. Moving on, I will not be filling this up for Faisal. I'll ask him to fill it up himself. He hasn't done that yet, and as you can see, it's blank. So this is about how successful are you, your achievements. Step number 1, right? So Faisal has to record his achievements in this particular section. Let's move on. Step 1, this step will explore what development activity has worked for you in the past. You'll have to answer some challenge questions and some focus questions. So you have to do all that here. I'm not going to do that for Faisal. Faisal will be doing it himself. So moving on. Click the next button. This one will take a bit of time. Questions? How many? Plenty. Plenty of questions. 5 o'clock, we'll take a question answer break. All right. Here you go. Recent development activities and the list of different types of activities. So, have you taken part in any of the following activities in the last year? Simple yes or no answers. Have you attended conferences? Have you attended courses through webinar, web, internet, discussions, debates, networking, professional topics, distance learning, MOOCs, job shadowing, job swaps, mentoring, coaching, researching, reading, so on and so forth. Then, in helping you improve your knowledge or skills, how would you rate how helpful these activities have been? So you can imagine, you can understand what it's trying to do. It's trying to find out from you which of these activities you find most effective, and therefore when it recommends certain learning opportunities for you, it is going to keep all this in mind. So you'll have to answer all these questions and then click next. I think it's not as difficult as you would have thought it was, right? So very quickly, you have to complete these questions. You have to answer them. Again, second section, you will determine what makes you successful in your role and focus on what you do. So again, a few questions to be asked. What is expected of you? Your job profile, role. Select profiles, so there are profiles available already. Select activities. You can have a list of activities available. Select skills/knowledge, allows you to view and search for different skills and knowledge. This is about yourself. Sorry. Role, title, purpose of your role, work setting, key activities that you perform, key relationships that you have at work. It could be an internal or external relationship, key skills and knowledge that you are required to possess in order to do your day-to-day work. Leaving all this blank for Faisal. Faisal, this is for you. So in this section, this is step number 3. You're required to reevaluate. So therefore, you continue to go on stepwise. And once you've done all 6 steps, you can switch straight to the Cpd evidence. Okay? So this is the place where for a particular year, you have to submit evidences of your Cpd activities. Okay? Let's look at 2017, view amend. So currently, Faisal has not done any Cpd activity. I'll have to ask him to continue to update it. People, let me give you a good suggestion. Rather than leaving the Cpd submissions to the year end, when you will already be in a lot of rush, it's the year end, busy days, etc., late evenings, working at the office, it is useful that as you go along, you continue to record these. It just takes about a few minutes only. Just click here, provide a little evidence, a summary, and that's it. Save it, move on. End of the year, you'll feel so happy that you want to recorded all the webinars, all the activities, the Cpd activities that you performed. It just takes a couple, and then as it is updated from time to time, any skill set which you thought you would develop in the beginning of the year and you haven't done that yet, the PDM is going to continue to update you, continue to remind you to look for opportunities which are related to that particular skill set. Okay, add new record, a description of the development learning activity, name the mentor or the course provider. If it was a webinar, let's suppose by ACCA, you could write ACCA's webinar. How do you choose this activity and how is it relevant to you? This is where the description comes in. When did this activity take place? How many units are you claiming for this activity? How many of these units can you verify with supporting evidence? And that's exactly what I said to you. 100 Cpd units, how many gain, how many relevant, how many not? 8 Cpd units, you feel 50% relevance, give evidence for 50%, that's relevance for you. And claim, let's suppose, 4 Cpd units. Your supporting evidences, you can record details, location of any supporting evidence, or contact details of a third person who can substantiate completion of this activity. So if it was a certificate, it could be uploaded here. If it was a third-party verification letter, it could be shown or saved here as an evidence. So all that is possible through PDM. Okay, so PDM is one interesting thing. I would highly recommend all of you that when you go back, spend about 15-20 minutes today, half an hour maybe at the most, complete all those 6 steps, start recording your Cpd activities as they happen. And particularly for those members who recently become members and their activities, Cpd activities, the requirement starts from the next year, this is the best time for you to define your role profile, define your liking and disliking for particular types of Cpd activities. All right, let's go back to the presentation. And before we continue, let's look at questions. Yes, Seth. We'll just take questions for about 10 minutes, and then we'll revert back.
Walid Raza Mamnoon is asking, how do we
Sorry,
record?
who's that?
Walid Raza Mamnoon.
Walid Raza Mamnoon, okay.
Is asking, how do we record a Cpd event conducted by IFAC member body if any certificate is not provided?
I've just answered that question. If there is no certificate, there could be other evidences. There could be an evidence of email. You could ask that body to provide you with an evidence. If it is not in the form of a certificate, if it can be in the form of a letter, if it can be in the form of some minutes, notes taken, etc. if you can define relevance, all these are evidences for your CPD requirement.
Rubin Imtiaz is asking, sir, I'm working as a financial reporting. Taxation is relevant, but not 100%. Also, we need to submit our return. Make payments in company tax is important. Calculation is not possible. How much relevant or not relevant?
I think if you're directly involved in financial reporting, taxation is relevant, quite relevant. I would say about 80% relevant, but I'm not the one to decide. You're the one to decide. Okay, so it's actually you who have to see how much is this going to help you at work, right? But I feel if it is financial reporting or if it is submitting tax returns year to year, automatically a training on taxation is very relevant.
Sin Tariq has left, but he was asking what are the evidences you need for verifiable CPD?
I've just explained the different types of evidences. It could be a certificate, it could be minutes, it could be third-party verification, it could be handouts, it could be photographs taken at the event, right? But mainly it's your learning. If you're able to relate back that learning to your work, to the work that you do, that is what makes it more, and that makes it verifiable. I mean, remember the three conditions: relevant. How is it relevant? Do you have an evidence?
Maybe Hussain is asking, I'm working in MNC Bank. When specially engaged with IFRS 9, how can I show this as a CPD?
Now, if you are attending trainings, in-house trainings, external trainings on IFRS 9, you could easily come up with evidences. Okay. If it was an internal training, if it was a meeting within your team, and you were discussing application of IFRS 9, and there was somebody who was taking minutes, and your name was there as attendee, right? And there's a third person, let's suppose your course mate or your HR department, who can verify that yes, you were a part of this training. That is the evidence that you can submit in order to claim verifiable CPD from that activity.
Rehatul Islam is asking, how can I find an approved employer in a specific country? In my case, Bangladesh.
Again, ACCA customer services will be able to help. You could send them an email, members@accglobal.com. I'll repeat, members@accglobal.com. If you can type that in as well, send it to everyone. You can ask them for a list of CPD approved employers in your market.
Finally, he's asking, the CPD hours which I claim will depend upon my judgment that it is related to my profession, or ACCA will judge it?
No, your judgment. ACCA will tell you the maximum number of CPD units.
Muhammad Hassan Khan is saying that he has attended free courses on Coursera which are related to finance, management, accounts, and Excel. Will it count as they provide certificates as well? Each course is 4 to 3 weeks on an average day.
Definitely yes, definitely yes. Coursera courses, most of them free of cost. You pay for the certificate only. Definitely yes.
Ahsan Ilahi is asking how to keep evidence of CPD unit completed.
We've just explained that, different types through which you can complete evidences. If you're still not clear, please watch the recording, or you can contact me afterwards.
Mohammed Saqib Ali Rajdi is asking how the relevance would be identified if the member's job in the learning CPD sessions has very rare differences. Like, I am a professional accountant and attended a webinar on entrepreneurship. How ACC would relate the relevance?
It's actually you who have to relate it, right? ACCA can only, provide you with the maximum number of CPDs you can gain from that. Right? Let's just imagine this particular session. Isn't this particular session relevant to all of you because all of you have to make CPD returns? So all of you can claim full 2 units of CPD and can provide evidence from this session. But in another case, like I explained, if you are not engaged in taxation fully, partially engaged, right? I mean, you need to have knowledge, but you're not required to, let's say, submit tax returns, etc. Then maybe it could be 30% relevance, right? You need to decide that yourself, okay?
He's again asking also, I have studied MSc accounting from the University of London. How will it count towards Cpd units?
Very simple. How many units of learning? I mean, how many hours of learning? What was your classes scheduled like? How many hours did you spend in the classrooms? How many hours did you spend learning? Do a calculation of that. Like I said to you, 40 you can consume during this year. 21 you can carry forward to the next year. Beyond that, you cannot.
Yasser Ali is asking, how can we attach the certificates, evidences while submitting the CPDs online? Is there any method? I think
we will just explain that. However, you can keep a record to yourself as well. If your name comes up for an audit, we'll talk about that. That is when you need to furnish all this evidence to ACCA. And remember, you have to keep the evidence with you for minimum 3 years.
Mohammed Mudassir Inayat Awan is asking, as I'm working in government sector, how can my learning activity be relevant to ACCA webinar CPD schedule?
Well, ACCA's CPD schedule is very, very broad-based. Don't just look at that. There are CPD activities available on the website also. There are many activities related to the public sector. There are many activities which are related to soft skills. There are many activities which are related to, for example, leadership skills, etc. Right? So they are relevant. Yeah.
Mehdi Hussain is asking, if I have missed part of CPD in the prior year, in the previous year, how can I submit this in the following year?
I think it's very, very difficult if you have missed even 40 units of learning. If you consider the work being done, I mean, you're learning at work as a possibility for CPD, I can tell you, all of you will have surplus CPDs that you can carry forward to the next year. There's so much that you as a professional would do day to day. I mean, if attending a business meeting, discussing strategy, discussing the plan, discussing your growth strategy of the business, where there are other people also in that, I mean, that's normal business routine, where there are meetings, minuted, etc. That's CPD. Right? You can go back, you can find out what activities, or what meetings, or what business activities that took place. See if you can get any evidence of those meeting minutes, third-party verification, etc., handouts used in that discussion, find out the relevance and report it. That's it. You will never be able to, you'll never be short of CPD. If you're still short, then you have to talk to ACCA. ACCA will help you complete your CPD requirement in the subsequent year.
And you know what, this was a very famous question. Almost 10 to 12 people have asked the exact same question.
What was that? This one?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Mohammed, someone is asking, if I take 30 verifiable units and update it, does it cover non-verifiable units as well? 30 verifiable units, will they cover the remaining non-verifiable units?
Yeah, if you don't provide an evidence, it'll automatically be considered as non-verifiable. And then if you provide evidence for 21 units, fine, the remaining would automatically be non-verifiable.
Amjad Ramzan is asking, I have been online submitting my CPD for the last 2 years. If I had not received any query or reply from ACCA, then will it mean my CPDs have been accepted by ACCA?
Look, ACCA requires you to submit a declaration every year stating that you have completed the CPD requirement. You are, alongside that declaration, you are also required to complete evidences as well. Anytime during the next 3 years, ACCA can come back to you. ACCA randomly picks up members and asks them for evidence of having done that CPD. This process is called Cpd Audit. So if your name comes in the Cpd Audit, you will be required to furnish evidences of you having completed those CPDs within certain time frame. If you don't, now I'm talking about repercussions. If your name came up in the audit and you did not provide a response or a legitimate response or a response that would satisfy ACCA, your name will be removed from the ACCA register, which means you will be suspended from the membership. If you do not submit your annual declaration for CPD, which is required of every member every year, then you at the most get 1 more year. If in the subsequent year also you don't submit your CPD returns, then your name is removed from the ACCA register once again. Remember, this is an IFAC requirement, and ACCA has to report on it publicly. These many members submitted. I mean, the only reason I showed those figures or those graphs to you was because ACCA has a responsibility to tell the outside world how many or what percentage of its members comply with CPD. And those who don't, what does ACCA do with them? They're suspended. Yeah? Any more questions?
Yeah. Yasser Mahmood is asking why ACCA still chose to review CPD and what evidence one needs to provide.
Because ACCA has a responsibility towards, making sure that its members are complying with the CPD requirement. Like I said, IFAC requires ACCA to do that. And evidences, I've explained in a number of questions, there are multiple forms of evidences. So there's a video recording available, there is certificates available, meeting minutes available, handouts available, all these are evidences.
Yasser Ali is asking the same question. I couldn't complete my CPD requirement for the year 2015.
You answered that?
Fazle Rabi is asking how can I measure units of non-verifiable CPD as an example I learned from newspaper or professional bodies magazine.
Very simple. How much time did you spend reading? So for example, your AB magazine that you get every month, there is always an article in there which can be used for verifiable CPD. Why? Because there are a few questions related to that article that if you answer and submit those as an evidence, that is CPD. But it automatically says this can count up to a maximum of 1 unit of CPD. So again, your assessment. And the formula is very simple. 1 hour is equals to 1 unit. If the activity lasted 1 hour, you can claim 1 unit. If you read an article for half an hour, that's half a unit. Very simple.
Sapna Gulatni is saying hello. If you could please list down some examples of non-verifiable units. CPD.
We will look at that. I mean, let me just be very explicit here. I mean, for example, reading a newspaper, reading a magazine, watching a TV program, playing a game of golf with your colleagues, the boss, discussing business, networking. I mean, activities that are related to your professional development, not to be declared very, very relevant, but they're important for your professional development, right? And you don't have an evidence. So if you, let's suppose, gone to a game of golf with your boss, and you're talking about competition in your business, etc., while you're playing golf, right? You can't provide an evidence, so that would be reported as non-verifiable CPD. Simple. How many more questions? Because I have to ask some poll questions.
10 to 15.
More questions? Yeah. Can we stop here, very quickly do a few poll questions so that we see the audience is all alive, and and we come back to those questions again.
Yeah, sure.
All right, a few poll questions appearing on your screen now. The first one: which education standard of IFAC relates to CPD? IES. Which IES relates to CPD? There are about 300 people sitting in this webinar. I want all of them to answer. I talked about this at the beginning of the session. Okay, I'm only able to give you 30 more seconds very quickly. We've got about 27, 28% votes. Come on, very quickly. IES 6, IES 7, or IES 8? Five more seconds. Over. And the result is this. Of course, majority is right. 70% have said that IES 7 is the one related to it. That's right. IES 6 is not, and IES 8 is also not relevant to Cpd. Okay. Let me ask a few more pop-up questions. This one is about the professional development matrix. The question says, professional development matrix can be used to, number one, plan your Cpd, number two, review your Cpd, number three, record Cpds, number four, all of the above. Really, this is a very simple question. Okay. Very, very simple question. We've done all this. So those who might have joined afterwards, I mean, it's important for them to at least try to answer these questions and know the answers as well. Very important. Okay, 15 seconds. 5. All right. And here are the answers. Once again, majority is right. All of the above, 82%. You can use your PDM to plan, review, and record your Cpd, all of them. Excellent. A few more. I'm sure you'll find it interesting. One more question. And I'm sure all of you will have to give correct answers this time. We have talked about it so much. How many verifiable Cpd units are members required to achieve every year? Please, all correct answers. Verifiable Cpd units. How many? Thirty seconds more. This is interesting. Sounds like the game with Amitabh Bachchan, isn't it? Yeah. Audience poll. 15. 5. All right. Share the answers. Again, majority is right, but I don't know why people think 6% said 19. 19 are non-verifiable. 40 are the total number of Cpds required every year. Verifiable, only 21. Remember that. Good. What, more questions or move on? Let's do one more. Let's just do one more. How many Cpd units can be carried forward to the subsequent year? Maximum how many Cpd units can be carried forward to the subsequent year? This one is very simple. Again. Okay. Twenty seconds left. 10. and up. Now this was a little, I don't know, it's 21, 63% gave the right answer. The right answer is maximum 21 verifiable Cpd units can be carried forward to the subsequent year only. Okay, I'm sure you found it interesting. This was brushing up on the discussion that we just had. A good way of recapping. Let's now move on. We'll come back to questions later. Let's just move on. Let's talk about doing. All right, so now you know what is the Cpd policy, and you know how to plan your Cpd. Now we're talking about how to do your Cpd. And we're talking about what verifiable activities, what non-verifiable activities, etc. As an activity, we've discussed this in the question answer box. Can you list 10 different ways through which you can learn and get Cpd? Type the answer in the question answer box. List the type of activities through which you feel you can complete your Cpd requirement. So I'm looking at the question answer box right now. Webinars, reading newspaper, lectures, training, technical articles, webinars, articles, attending classes, seminars, meetings, okay. Working, reading newspaper, excellent. That was, I don't know who that was. Delivering lectures, excellent. Fantastic. Has anybody thought of mentoring? Being a mentor? Yes, mentoring, Essen, thank you very much. Shoaib, thank you. So if you are mentoring an ACCA trainee, that requires coaching skills. That requires you to brush up your own knowledge. Automatically that becomes Cpd for you. If you're able to provide an evidence, a third-party evidence, that you sat across from an ACCA trainee in your organization, and you mentor the individual, help that individual become a professional accountant, that also in return helps you to complete your Cpd. Excellent. Wonderful. I think the webinar is doing a fantastic job, and so many of you know so many different ways of Cpd by now. So, all right, so most of you were right. Webinars, online courses, additional qualifications, online articles, publications and technical articles, somebody said that as well, face-to-face courses, webinars, conferences, committees, panel discussions. So all the MNP members, all the subcommittee members, the time that they spend doing the work. So for example, there's a taxation subcommittee of ACCA. Whenever they sat down, trying to come up with the budget proposal for Pakistan or for the respective countries, for example, that's Cpd. Undertaking any research, listening to any podcast, coaching and mentoring, networking, but the most important, learning at work. And let's see how learning at work is verifiable. What kind of learning at work is verifiable? Expert briefings. So an expert comes in and briefs you. An expert comes in and talks about forming a business strategy, talks about competition, so on and so forth. Starting a new role. So let's suppose you've been told that you're going to start a new role, if it's a promotion or a new added responsibility, and you are being briefed to prepare you for that new role, that is verifiable Cpd. Internal trainings. So, like I said to you, you have an evidence, you can ask your HR for a letter, and that is a verifiable Cpd. Non-verifiable Cpd would be internal news. If there's an internal newsletter, you're reading that, that's non-verifiable. Departmental meetings, right? Shorter procedural meetings, operational meetings, right? Those are, if it's strategy level, business level, etc., those could be verifiable Cpd units, and you could produce meeting minutes. Resources available for members, and I'll in the end show you some very, very interesting tools available for you even on your cell phones. And I've got my cell phone with you. I've downloaded 2 of the apps on Android available to you that can help you with your Cpd. I was very excited yesterday having seen those applications. Cpd events and resources, Cpd iGuide available on ACCA Global. AV magazine, how many of you read it? Answers? How many of you read AV magazine? The monthly publication? Armagan, good, thank you. Yes, I do. Raza, Irfan, Yusuf, Thuri Chalvan, excellent. So please regularly read this. I think this is a very important resource, very, very important resource. Professional insights, I'll tell you what professional insights are. They're all available on the ACCA website, and they're available to you on your cell phone as well if you've installed the app. I'll just share the name of the app with you. Technical resources supporting your sector. Sectoral research is available to you on the ACCA website, on the members section of the ACCA website. Very, very useful. Right? I will urge all of you to go and check the sector support that ACCA provides and doing further qualifications. Okay, a view of the ACCA website. I'm sure all of you must have visited at least this website once after having become a member. But if you have not, you must. Okay? Very useful place, a lot of resources available. This has been revamped recently, and therefore you'll find a lot of interesting things relevant to you, to your professional development on the website. Cpd Resource Finder. So this is the list of Cpd that are globally available. There are, of course, there's information, in focus, articles, Cpd articles, and there are many more. There are Cpd webinars, etc., conferences, seminars taking place face-to-face. This resource will have a list of all those activities happening. So you can explore that. Okay, here we go. If you're using an Android device, and let me see if this is visible to you. You look at the bottom two applications in red. One is called Accounting and Business, and the other is called ACCA Insights. Let me first of all open Accounting and Business. Okay, if you see this, you'll have a list of all the AV magazines archived, available on your phone, right? Such a useful thing. You can, I mean, if you're not driving, you're sitting alongside, you know, somebody driving you, or you're at home, yeah, or let's suppose you are over lunch. This is your best resource. I mean, you can just open up an AV magazine on your phone and read it. So that's useful. The other one is Professional Insights. Professional Insights are all the researches that ACCA's policy department conducts. They are very, very relevant, and by the way, they are ACCA's strength in many ways. I can tell you ACCA invests a lot of effort and money into these researches, and they can offer you that competitive edge. I can tell you, so many accounting bodies will not even have the kind of resources or the kind of attention for conducting these researches. This is ACCA's signature material. Do take out time to read it. Right? And there are a host of researches available. Most of them will be relevant to you. Most of them. Please take out some time. They're available to you on your cell phone. Do take out time to read them. Names of the application. One was, can you type that in? One was Accounting and Business. The other was Insights. ACCA Insights or Professional Insights. So you search these, or just type ACCA in your Play Store or your Apple device in the Apple Store. Just type ACCA and you will see these applications there. Okay, moving on. Member resources, sectors, industries, and roles. This is what I was talking to you about. Very, very useful resources provided to you about your particular sector or about your particular role in the sector. The oil and gas industry, for example, and its importance. ACC has done a lot of research around CPEC, and most of the countries in MENASA will be impacted by CPEC, right? So see how will your country be impacted. I mean, ACC has done a research. The Global Economics Conditions Survey, available to you through Professional Insights. We do talk about different economies, their growth, their performance over time, etc., and what is restored in future for them. These are some of the some other qualifications that are ACCA partner qualifications, and completing these qualifications would also mean CPD for you. So certified internal auditors, right? That is their Chartered Management Institute, CMIS qualifications, the Oxford Brookes MBA program, the University of London program, they're all relevant to you. Okay. Now, I think for about 5 or 10 more minutes, we will look at how to review your CPD. How to record it and how to review it. What if you called up for a CPD audit? Right? So let's see what's there. Okay, this is the CPD evidence sheet, partially filled up, or fully filled up rather, of Mr. David Queen, an employee at ACCA, CPD year 2005, just to give you an example. All right, if you look at this, CPD requirements 2005, total units 40, verifiable units 21. Mr. David Queen asked for some readjustment, asked for some waiver from CPD. So his waiver was that the requirement was decreased by 12 units. So that would mean he was required to complete 28 units instead of 40 during the year 2005, for whatever reason. Right? But like I said to you, the person is unemployed for more than a month, you can go and ask. You will not get a 100% waiver from completing your CPD. You will get certain amount of waiver, for example, this case. Okay, then, excuse me, current status, which means whatever time of the year it was in 2005, units recorded to date, total 34, out of which 33 were verifiable units. Okay, then next is evidence summary. So David Queen has provided evidence of the activities that ended. So, for example, tax update, 4th of December 2005. Total units available 4, verifiable units available 4. Right? Then work through case studies from ICPA on the ethics microsite additions for testing purposes. Right? So must have spent about 2 hours testing AICPA's website. Right? 24th August 2005. They're mentioned in retrospective order. Then ISA 33, 20th March 2005. The person must have read ISA 33 or try to understand it. Application, etc. 4 units, verifiable, all 4. Now this one is interesting. Had a meeting with Christine William, CIPD, on issues facing development professionals. Total meeting time was 2 units. However, 1 verifiable unit was claimed. So that's important. That's how you use your judgment to define that you will not claim 100% CPD units. Depending upon relevance, you can claim part of it. So on and so forth. And you always have an opportunity to view the details or amend it afterwards. Right? So once all this is done, you can just save it and keep a printout as well. Right? So if you click view or amend, this screen comes up. And over here, you are required to tell the description of the development activity. Why did you choose this activity? You have to write something. Why did this activity, when did this activity take place? The date, the hours, what was the date and the time, amount of time? Units, how many units are you claiming? And how many units could you verify? So that's how verifiable and non-verifiable will be computed for that particular activity. Again, most importantly, how was it relevant? What did you learn? And how will you apply it? You may provide a lot of information here, but a very small passage on how will you, let's suppose, if you've attended taxation training, how will you apply this to your workplace, right? So if, let's suppose, you're saying, I'm responsible for submitting tax returns, as an example, in your organization, and this information will be very valuable in computing and finding out how to submit tax returns, etc. That is where it will help. For this particular training for you, for example, you can say you're required to submit Cpd returns, and this session help you in understanding the Cpd requirement and also trying to understand how you are required to give an evidence or keep a record or review your Cpd requirements. And supporting evidence, employer training records, appraisal documents, etc. There can be so many evidences that you can provide by submitting them here. You are also, like I said, required to keep a record of those documents with you. You can't just say that I've uploaded and therefore I need to purge these documents. Keep them safe for 3 years. Your name can be called up for an audit 3 years, within 3 years, right? If your name comes up, you will have to provide that evidence. Okay, now moving on to Cpd Declaration. Prior to this, we have talked about recording your Cpd activities, keeping a record, keeping a log. Now it's about giving a declaration, telling that you have completed the Cpd requirement that ACCA has put forward. That is very, very important. So when I was showing you that graph, ACCA computes the percentage of members who submit this every year. Believe you me, this is a very, very simple half-a-minute process. Half a minute. It falls due on 1st of January every year. So all those members who, CPD who find Cpd relevant or who are required to, comply with Cpd requirement, their Cpd declaration falls due on the 1st of January. Let's see how it looks like. It's very, very simple. Look at this sheet. It says Cpd requirement 2017. Total units 40, verifiable units 21. In this case, there was no adjustment made, so the complete information has been shown. Part 1. All members must complete this part. The first option says, I have complied with the Cpd requirement for 2017. The Cpd route I followed in 2017 is, so you have the 4 options that I explained to you, and you have to select one of those options. If you select the unit route, you will have to provide evidences of the 40 units. If you select unit route for part-time or semi-retired, you'll have to provide evidences of 19 non-verifiable units plus some evidence that you are semi-retired or part-time employed. Number 3, ACCA approved employer route. I told you, you have to provide an evidence of your employment with that particular employer. ACCA will go back and check if that employer is currently approved employer for Cpd, right? If it is, your approved employer route will be accepted, otherwise you'll be advised to follow the unit route. And the 4th one is IFAC member body route. So I've explained all those to you. Then option B in this case is, in part 1 is, I have not been able to complete the Cpd requirement. I understand that Cpd is a requirement for my continuing membership. I will make good my shortfall and then submit in a Cpd declaration to confirm. So remember, when you submit a Cpd declaration, you can submit one right now if you want, right? can submit another one in November, another one in December. You can keep updating it, right? You can update your CPD returns as well, right? So you must access both these from time to time. Part 2 is only select this part if it applies to you. If it does not, leave blank. And this second part says, I confirm that I am an engagement partner responsible for audits of financial statements. Remember, if you're a partner and you take on this responsibility of auditing financial statements, then every year you will be under audit. Every year you will be required to produce evidences, and that's because this responsibility carries a lot of public, responsibility. So therefore, you're required to make sure, ACCA tries to make sure that you are completing your CPD throughout the year. Number 3, or part 3, is a declaration. You just read this, click that you've read it, and submit your CPD declaration. Submitting CPD declaration every year after the 1st of January is a must. If you don't, ACCA will start sending you reminders. If you still don't, ACCA will finally suspend you from your membership on a certain date. All right. Now, before we proceed on to any more questions, you will have to answer my questions first. So I have more polls available for you. Question coming up on your screen. Here you go. It's about mentoring. Okay, so the question is, mentoring a trainee is non-verifiable CPD. Yes or no? Mentoring a trainee is non-verifiable CPD. Okay. 30 seconds. $15 seconds. Are you sifting through the questions? 5 seconds. Close. Share. 69% say it is not non-verifiable. 31% say yes, it is non-verifiable. My answer is it is verifiable. So no was the correct answer. Why is it not? Why is it verifiable? If you can provide an evidence of your spending time with an ACCA trainee that you were coaching and mentoring, you can claim verifiable CPD units from this activity. Okay, moving on. Next question is, I think this has been explained too many times. If I'm doing a master's degree program after my ACCA, is it considered a CPD activity? Yes or no? Come on, don't say no. Giving you a hint. 30 seconds. Remember when we were talking about myths, certain myths that exist. We discussed this. $20 seconds left. How many questions do we have? 5. We'll have 15 minutes for questions. All right, close, share. 94%. But what were these 6% thinking? Of course it is CPD. It's definitely CPD. I explained it to you. And I even told you how to calculate your number of units, how to provide evidence. Your attendance in the class could be an evidence. Your degree program itself could be an evidence. Your transcript could be an evidence, etc. All right, I have loads of questions from you before I start answering you all. Couple more. Attending a business planning meeting or a strategy setting meeting at workplace, is it considered CPD? Yes or no? I am surprised. I'm still surprised. Seth, you're an ACCA student, right?
Yeah.
Sitting in this session, are you now clear what the answer should be, isn't it?
Yeah.
Great. So see, Saf, even Saf is clear on what the answer should be. He's a student of ACCA.
And I wasn't even focusing on what you were saying.
Why were you not? You don't say that in my webinar, please.
I was busy answering their questions.
10 seconds left.
Those words sounded so clear.
Close, yes. Sharing the results. 85% are correct. 15%, I'm sorry, that's not correct. Business planning, strategy meetings, high-level meetings in your organization which are recorded, minuted, are considered CPD. This is considered learning at work. This is one of the best sources of CPD declared by ACCA. All right, okay, interesting. And to conclude, let's see if you know the answer to this. Not submitting your CPD return or your Cpd declaration will result in a warning from ACCA, that's it, or a suspension from ACCA membership, or a disciplinary action by ACCA. Which one of the three? Thirty seconds. Ten seconds. And close. All right. 71% are correct. Suspension of ACCA membership. If you do not submit your Cpd declaration and your Cpd returns, or you do not provide evidences in a Cpd audit, you are suspended from the membership. Of course, suspension means that there is a way back. If you provide those evidences later, and if you approach ACCA for reinstatement, you can be reinstated back to membership. But you have to provide evidences. You have to provide audit evidences. You have to submit the declaration only then, right? So suspension from membership. Warning, yes, but it doesn't stop at the warning. It goes on to suspension. So please remember that. Disciplinary action, no. In this case, there are no disciplinary actions. Disciplinary actions are taken in case of any professional or ethical misconduct by a member. Please refer to the ACCA rule book, the definition of professional and ethical judgment. Okay, I think that's about it. Just one last question about feedback. How did you find this session? Do you think it was useful? And while you answer this, I'm going to answer your questions as promised. In the next 5 to 7 minutes, 10 minutes, I will answer questions. How did you find this session? Useful, very useful, excellent, could have been better, or was horrible? I don't think so. Okay. G, Seth.
Waleed is asking, please ask this question: how do we record a Cpd event conducted by IFAC member body? If any certificate is not provided, how do we record a Cpd event conducted by IFAC member body?
I think, yeah, I think I've answered this. If that IFAG member body can offer you a letter, not a certificate, if it's a letter or an email verifying that you were a part of that CPD learning session, right? That could be used as an evidence. A third-party verification could be used as an evidence. Handouts, minutes, meeting minutes, etc. could be used as evidences. And I've explained this earlier.
Should I skip the questions you have already answered?
Yes, yes, please, please.
Ali Faisal, what is the difference between a Cpd declaration and a Cpd return?
Cpd return is where you provide evidences, each and every activity, how many Cpd units, etc. Cpd declaration is what you see on the screen right now. Sorry, let me hide this. I mean, the last slide that I was showing to you, where you have to declare that you have completed the Cpd requirement and you have to check the declaration and submit it. That is called the Cpd declaration. Both separate things. Both separate. Cpd return or collecting Cpd evidences through PDM, Professional Development Matrix, is like, if you can keep compiling it throughout the year. So it's like the balance sheet, isn't it? However, your Cpd declaration is like your income statement. End of the year, you just make a declaration saying, this is what my situation is. I've completed my Cpd or not completed my Cpd, and send it across. So that's the difference in layman terms.
Sayyida Tabinda Gilani is asking, sir, if someone is unemployed for more than 1 month, but he or she attends the Cpd activity like through webinars, can he or she submit Cpd returns and through which route? As if someone feels he is getting updated through Cpd, that is Companies Act 2017.
I mean, definitely yes. If you're not employed for more than a month, but you choose to attend ACCS webinars, that's that's a very useful way of keeping yourself up to date. And by the way, I was so overjoyed by this one situation where a member called me up and said, I have an interview tomorrow, and the position is, it involves some responsibility around taxation. How can I very quickly brush up my taxation knowledge? And I simply referred that member to the video recordings that we have put up on Vimeo. And that member just very quickly went on to attend that 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours recording session around Finance Act, around taxation, and that served the purpose actually. So yes, by all means, you can attend webinars. Asking for a waiver or relaxation in Cpd because you were unemployed is only an option available to you. If you choose not to avail that option, if you choose to instead complete the Cpd requirement, that's perfectly all right. Yes, next one.
All the same questions. And finally, is asking, saying I am working as a manager in finance, Pakistan Audit and Accounts Academy. Call me as a guest speaker for 6 hours on government audit. For the 6 hours class, I have to prepare it in 12 hours. I would claim 12 hours or 6 hours?
Yes, 12 hours. 100%, 12 hours.
All right.
And the usual, method of calculation is that if it's let's suppose a 3 hours Cpd activity, automatically you will spend about 4 hours. If it's a 3 hours activity, you will spend twice the amount of time preparing for it. So 3 hours activity, 6 hours units, 6 Cpd units. 1 hour activity, 2 Cpd units, because we would have spent 2 hours in preparing for that 1 hour activity. So that's the rule of thumb in this case. Yes, next. Quickly, we just have a couple of minutes left.
Yeah. Ali Naksh is asking, as you said, we need leadership skills like soft skills, but no event, no soft skills.
I'm sorry, you look at the Cpd calendar that we have. There are many soft skills trainings this year. In fact, there are more soft skills trainings than the technical trainings this year. And just because right now we are focusing more on taxation, and then there will be a focus will shift on to reporting, IFRS, etc. Right? In between, we will continue to do soft skills trainings. And by the way, next what is it? Friday, 14th?
Yeah.
Creating engaging presentations.
15th.
Yeah. 15th. We are going to run a presentation, run a webinar on creating engaging presentations. The head of marketing at ACCA is going to run that session, and you'll find it very, very useful. Again, soft skills.
Yeah. Farooq Nawaz Khan is asking, for FCCA 5 years CPD must be declared, or every member after 5 years of membership is shifted to the FCCA status?
Sorry, members, only members in good standing. Only members who have been members in good standing for 5 years can shift to the FCCA status. So for example, if there was a member who had submitted the declaration, the Cpd declaration, for 4 years and did not submit one for the 5th year, that member, unless he or she submits that declaration, cannot proceed on to become a fellow member. So there are situations where, let's say, a member forgot to submit the Cpd declaration in a particular year, right? And then 5 years pass, and he or she was expecting to become an FCCA. ACCA will not offer that status. The member will be required to complete 5 years Cpd, prove membership in good standing, and then ACCA will automatically assign the status of a fellow chartered certified accountant.
Sapna Dolpani is asking, I am doing CFA and not employed since past few months. Does CFA studies count? I have got the waiver of 25 verifiable Cpd units, but I need to declare 19 non-verifiable. Can those 19 cover?
Yes, of course. The simple answer is yes.
Yeah. Umar Singh is asking, sir, I am working in an organization as an accountant. However, my organization is not following IFRS. Is my work be recorded as a Cpd?
Your work is not recorded as Cpd. Your learnings at work is recorded as Cpd, right? If the learning at work is helping you develop professionally, yes, that will be counted as Cpd. But if it is not helping you develop professionally, if it is not enhancing your learning, then it will not be considered Cpd.
Mohammed Saqib Ali Rashidi is asking, is it necessary to record PDM before or after Cpd declaration, or without PDM record we could declare Cpd?
You could declare. However, it is strongly advisable that you continue to declare or continue to record your Cpd activities using PDM as you go along. So that end of the year, your PDM is ready. It's just a declaration that you have to make. If you haven't completed your PDM, you can still declare. But immediately after declaring, I will strongly advise that you complete your Cpd record as well. Right? Because in case you are found having submitted the declaration and you've not submitted you've not, let's suppose, updated your Cpd record, and your name comes up in audit, then it'd be very difficult for you to, number one, gather all the evidences, number two, upload them, number three, satisfy ACCA's requirement. So please, and I've seen members in a terrible situation because of this. Any more questions?
It's the same question. HM Umar Sabir is asking, I have taken SAP course, which is more than 48 hours, but I don't have certificate. How can I provide evidence? I also have no emails, as my company has not yet paid for them and not fully implemented SAP. So I am hanging the balance. What should I do?
I understand this is a difficult situation. Implementation of SAP in your organization is not, it's not to be considered Cpd activity. However, you're learning through the Cpd activity. I'm afraid you'll have to wait for some evidence. any email proving that you attended, your notes, a letter from that institute from where you attended, etc. Any sort of evidence, third-party verification. Ask your organization to provide you with a letter saying that yes, you attended a training. Ask your HR department. Any such evidence will help substantiate your Cpd training.
If we are unable to attend a webinar live due to the office routine, but if we watch this webinar recording later on, can we still claim this activity as a verifiable Cpd?
I think this question has been asked a number of times. Unfortunately, at the moment, we don't have any means of establishing that you did attend or you did view the recording end to end. The current portal where we upload it does not give us this information. It does. It just gives us this information that such and such person, such and such email address, opened up watched the recording, but doesn't really tell if and therefore if the person completely watched the video end to end, and therefore we are not able to consider that as a verifiable Cpd. However, you can consider this as a non-verifiable. On the contrary, those who attend the webinar live, ACCA gets a detailed report from GoToWebinar portal indicating how many members, which member attended from what time till what time, how active the member was, how many questions asked. All these questions that you asked, they are being logged, they're recorded. All these poll answers that you sort of provided, all recorded. And therefore, we can very easily collaborate evidence that you attended this session through and through of a certain amount of time. And therefore, a certificate is issued on the basis of that, and that certificate is then used as a verification that you attended the Cpd session, the webinar. How many left?
I guess 4 to 5 questions. I think they are all the same questions.
Yeah, and I've answered most of them.
Yeah. We don't have any questions.
All right, there are certain, for example, I can see a
question.
Can a person who did CAT before ACCA apply for pathways to ICW membership program? Yes. People who used the CAT route to ACCA and their prior qualification was, let's say, matriculation or O levels, they're facing currently an issue. We are working with the Interboard Committee of Chairmen for the equivalence of the CAT qualification. However, our foundation diploma qualification has already been recognized by the Interboard Committee of Chairmen. So I think that's all about it. Thank you very much for attending this session. I hope you would have found this useful. Please give us your feedback. The recording will be available in about a couple of hours on Vimeo.com. In 2 hours' time, you will get an email from us also giving you the link to watch it on the GoToWebinar portal. Your certificates will be sent out to you on the next working day, which is Monday, inshallah. Do keep attending our webinars. Do continue to access ACCA's Cpd resources. Do download both the apps on your cell phone. I think that is definitely going to add value to your professional growth. It's going to help you grow further, and ACCA's all the good wishes are with you, in your professional career. Thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your day. And for those countries where it's a weekend, have a nice weekend. Thank you very much.